Welcome to the Scaling Japan podcast, a podcast about how to grow your business from $100,000 and beyond in the land of the rising sun.
Welcome to the Scaling Japan podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Batino. And on today's episode, I have Robert Heldt. He is the CEO of Custom Media. And Custom Media is a full-service B2B agency offering marketing, branding, PR solutions to global businesses entering or expanding in the Japanese market. They aid technology, manufacturing, energy, real estate, finance, and more. And they have prestigious clients like Mori Building to scale their business in Japan. So great to have you, Robert. And could you please give a quick introduction?
Thank you, Tyson. Delighted to be on your show. Thank you for inviting me. A fan of your Scaling Japan podcast. So it's really nice to be here to talk with you. So I'm originally from India. I've been in Japan 20 years now. And I started Custom Media in 2008. Custom Media, we started as a B2B magazine publishing company. We launched the magazine for the British Chamber of Commerce in Japan back in 2009. And over the course of our business, went on to publish the magazines for the American Chamber, the Canadian Chamber, and several other organizations. And print media transitioned and declined over the years. And so we transitioned out of print more into a full-service digital marketing agency. And today we provide, as you mentioned, digital marketing, PR solutions and branding solutions for global businesses that are entering or expanding in Japan. We cover all areas from strategy to marketing to execution and optimization for companies that are looking to scale in Japan.
And yeah, anyone involved in marketing in Japan definitely knows Custom Media.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear.
I'm very happy that we've been able to get Robert, who has scaled a pretty remarkable size of marketing agency in Japan. One topic, that I want to get you to talk about that I don't think too much people in Japan can actually claim they have a lot of knowledge about, but it's account-based marketing. So to get started, what exactly is account-based marketing?
Sure. Well, account-based marketing, or short as it goes, ABM, it's a B2B marketing strategy that takes a more strategic approach to business marketing that's based on account awareness. For account awareness, you really need the sales and marketing teams to work closer together to identify ideal customers and then set in motion a laser focus, what I would call lifecycle marketing strategy, that is to attract and retain the high value customers. And it's typically employed by enterprise level sales organizations. So account-based marketing strategy uses intent data, intent keywords to create kind of personalized campaigns that are messaging specific target accounts rather than relying on a one-size-fits-all approach. So ABM is highly targeted marketing tailored to particular needs and interests of individual accounts to build stronger relationships, increase engagement, and ultimately drive more conversions to your business. It's all about intent. Imagine if you knew who was in market at any given time for your products and services. And then if you're able to turn that into a reality. Today, we can achieve that, the ABM, using technology. And most recently, artificial intelligence, AI is really helping to improve understanding of your clients and your clients' needs, and then being able to target them specifically. So that is kind of account-based marketing in a nutshell.
Yeah, we'll go more into detail. I think for those it's the first time to hear, we'll have to break it down and simplify it. It's a concept that has always existed, but I think, like you mentioned, now they finally have the technology to really enable it and really start fine-tuning, like you mentioned, with the intent. Mm-hmm. But yes, I think we'll go a little bit, and before we dive in deeper, I think you mentioned one size fits all, but what was the B2B marketing before ABM?
Well, B2B marketing used to be, and actually for many businesses, it still is the traditional demand generation marketing. This is more of a reactive strategy where, it's about, think of it as spray and pray marketing strategy, right? So it's more about lead generation. So the key objective is like the more leads you have in your funnel, the more you can convert them, right? So to get more leads, you start creating a lot of generic content, generic marketing campaigns to reach wider and wider audiences, to drive higher and higher traffics. to your website or wherever that sales channel is. And then you typically try and convert those leads. So now your sales team are speaking to hundreds of accounts. So their 8 hours per day is split between trying to find out those hundreds of accounts, what their needs are, which is going to be very difficult, right? So the time spent on each account is going to be less, which means they're not getting those accounts are not getting better service, and you're not really understanding the challenges or needs of those clients. It's more of a sales push, like, here's my product, here's how we can help solve you, here's the benefits, and here's the price strategy, right?
That's a lot of discovery work
Exactly.
for the sales team.
Exactly. So typically the KPIs for them is like number of leads, number of page views, number of downloads, and so on. That's kind of the B2B marketing was like. And still many companies are doing that. So the traditional demand gen pipeline strategy focuses on the buyer's journey, right? You're getting the buyer to move from awareness to consideration and then to a decision. But in contrast, ABM focuses on the account's lifecycle pipeline and takes into account who are the buyers in that particular organization that makes decision. Especially in Japan, decisions in business are driven by consensus. You've got the consensus team that all needs to approve a particular product or service purchase. So you need to identify who are the key stakeholders in your potential client's organization, and then take a more customer-centric approach. The way I like to look at it, it's focusing on personalized content that addresses each of the stakeholders' needs. Right? What a CFO is looking for in terms of ROI is different from what the actual person is going to use the technology or product, right? They're looking for the use case of the product or technology versus the CEO is looking for what strategy and how is it going to impact the overall business decisions, right? So I think you need to have content that is personalized to each and every buyer in that buying committee. And that will deliver higher quality engagement because you're addressing that specific questions and needs. And then because you're being more intentional with your engagement, conversion rates are better, the deal size becomes bigger, better revenue, and then the final closing rates are also faster. So the way I would compare it is, the traditional B2B marketing is fishing with nets, wider net, database selection, interest, nurturing them, then converting the lead. So it's more like a funnel, whereas account-based marketing is more like a cone, where you have account selection, limited accounts, contact identification, who in those client accounts are key, nurturing those relationships, and then converting the account. So it's fishing with spears rather fishing with nets.
That's a great analogy. Or you try to be in as much channels as possible, catch your net as wide as possible, then kind of bring them down. But you're not sure who exactly in the organization is looking at it. Is it an operator? Is it a decision maker? I think we've all experienced web forums with like, what is your position in the company? It's like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm just saying I'm an entry-level worker, so you don't call me.
That's actually a very interesting thing. I'll talk a little bit more later about what are the challenges for ABM in Japan. Business cards in Japan don't give you titles for the most part. They just say like corporate planning department. Like, okay, what do you do in that department? Right? Are you the Bucho? Are you the
exactly?
Are you the Shinjin? Who are you? Right?
Were you just transferred? No, it's exactly. I sometimes with my clients, they're like, "Oh, I met this person in corporate planning," and it's like, "Oh, he's a kakaricho." And, "Oh, kakaricho." Good luck with that. Good luck. You'll have to get to the kacho, then you'll have to get to the bucho to get a decision. And I think you made one very key point for the listeners. I think you mentioned the cone where you start at a few accounts, but typically in an ABM campaign, I think maybe in your experiences in Japan, like how many accounts would you actually narrow it down to?
Yeah, it really depends on the type of clients you service. There are various tiers with regards to ABM. So you can look at it as if it's a one-on-one, then there are less than 10 accounts. So you're like just focusing on your top 10 accounts and all your efforts are going into landing those top accounts. And those top accounts will be millions of dollars of deal in deal sizes, right? Whereas if you're more taking a one-to-few approach, which is more 100 accounts and so on, so that's based on like an industry or a use case in a particular situation. So you can say, okay, our service is for all companies operating in the real estate industry. So then you're going to speak to as many companies in that industry, right? So then you want to take a one-to-few approach, right? And then at least you're creating content that can be used by all in that industry, right? And then the one-to-many is the programmatic approach. And if you don't know where to start, often we advise clients to start with a one-to-many programmatic approach where you're using technology to kind of help you to find intent and help you to narrow down who's your top CP clients. And these are for lower value accounts. Maybe your product or services is not the $1 million per year kind of spend, probably $50,000, $200,000 a year. So then you can take a more programmatic approach. So it really depends on product or services pricing and the level of usage across the business, and then how many accounts you think are important for you to land to be successful. So based on that, then we would guide companies as to what tier to use and pick the right strategy.
That was an amazing breakdown of ABM and the tiers. Now I think people have enough context to understand ABM. And why are companies switching to ABM?
Yeah, before I talk much about why companies are switching or should switch, I think it's important to understand that if you're using demand gen based or lead gen based approach, you shouldn't just entirely switch to ABM right away. It's about finding the right mix between the two approaches. Like I just said, if you don't know who your key accounts or how to get there, you want to continue, your traditional demand gen. You want to focus that rather than doing too much pay and pray kind of activities. But you should do an internal analysis to assess, does ABM work for your business? Will it work? Is this the right strategy, right? And if it is the right strategy for your business, when is the right time to start executing it? Because for ABM to succeed, you need a lot of internal alignment between your sales, marketing, and customer service teams. And you need the resources to be able to execute it. So now, why are companies switching to ABM? Quite simply, there are 5 key reasons. The first one is efficiency, right? You're talking about targeting key accounts that bring you the most value. And because you're only targeting those key accounts, all your efforts and campaigns are focused on them, and it's consistent. So as a result, you're actually eliminating wastage in terms of budget. You're not spending too much money on advertising and wasting your money on non-ICP clients. And then efficiency in terms of generating measurable results, because you're focusing on your top customers. You show them, your top customers, that you better understand their problems and their solutions. And then you can tailor solutions that addresses them, their needs, right? So the second is, as a result of efficiency, the deal sizes go up. You're focusing on top value accounts, so you can start to generate more revenue from those key accounts rather than you would generate from many small accounts, right? Because you can give them high value service, you can cross-sell, you can upsell to those accounts, and your sales and marketing teams are now servicing your top customers better. They feel better value, so you're building better relationships with them. Increased deal size means better ROI, right? ABM is now reducing your cost to spend in marketing because you're only working on qualified leads and qualified accounts, and you're generating better deal sizes. Bottom line, better ROI. And then finally, what this does is it, because your sales and marketing team are starting to work closely together. I don't know if you've worked in organizations where sales and marketing are always, I'm not getting enough leads, and marketing's not giving me enough leads.
It's not quality. The marketing leads suck.
Exactly, right? You have that challenge. So now that they're working on top key accounts and they're aligning, okay, we want to go after these clients, you find internally there's more synergy between your teams, and they're focused on working together rather than running their own silo departments. As a result, again, better customer service. And all this means you have quicker sales pipeline, sales velocity, because the sales team are going and asking clients, what are their problems, and then putting together the right solutions and getting marketing to put together, I need a case study that explains how you can help my client in the energy sector. Right? So the marketing is spending time on the case study for that particular customer rather than a generic case study. Right? So all of this improves the sales velocity and ultimately deal closure.
Because I had kind of a similar role where I was in charge of operations for a company with 200 people, and every department had different needs. And I was the one who kind of controlled everything. Luckily, we had a corporate goal. And so I could just kind of align that with the corporate goal. But yeah, I think it's really magical when you can get multiple departments to agree on a fixed goal together, where it's they're both mutual interests, and then collaborating to achieve that goal as opposed to competing with each other for more resources internally.
Exactly, right. It doesn't benefit anyone, right? And there are lots of studies, mostly in Western markets, on companies that have used ABM. Cyrus Decisions, they are a research organization, and one of their recent research papers on the benefits of ABM, of all those CMOs and companies that have used ABM, they say they have 99% better engagement with accounts, 80% better win rate, improved win rate, 73% deal size are higher. And as a result, because of ABM strategies, 91% better improved ROI, right? So the benefits are very, very clear. And it's just make sure you get the right team and the right alignment internally.
One of the common challenges I see with my consulting clients is not having any staff internally who can drive marketing strategy and execution to the next level. This really limits the growth trajectory of a company, especially for a leader like you that wants to go from 30 million to 500 million yen a year and does not have the time to spend years learning through trial and error. To solve this problem, I'm launching a marketing agency that can help companies like yours to increase leads and closing rates through SEO, Google Maps, content marketing, and websites that convert. Head over to scalingyourcompany.com and book a free consultation. Let's talk about what your business needs are, where your current strategy is letting you down, and how we can help you see real results with the methods I've successfully implemented at multiple companies myself. Now, back to the episode. Cool, because actually that was going to be my next question, if you could kind of dive deeper into the relationship between sales and marketing. But is there anything else in regards to the collaboration between both units for ABM?
Yeah, I think the way to structure ABM, if you wonder, like, how do you start with, I want to do ABM, how do I get started? The first thing is the goal and the team's alignment, right? So everyone in your sales, marketing, and customer service teams needs to know the clear understanding of their goals and the ABM strategy. Because once your teams are all on the same page and have a shared understanding of the objectives, like you said, you're working as a team, you're not working as sales separate and marketing separate, and customer service end up cleaning up. I don't know what the salesperson sold, but now I got to deal with this irate customer, right? So you want all of them on the same team, because then they are aligned and say, okay, we're going to execute the strategy. We're going to go after this top key account, and here's how we're going to go about it, right? So to get to the top key account, in IBM terminology, it's called ideal customer profile. You want to create a well-defined ideal customer profile, or ICP. Yes. And you can identify your target accounts based on specific criteria, then you're in a really good position to implement ABM. To do this, you need to understand the ideal customer profile's firmographic data, which is what industries do they work in, what verticals do they operate in, which locations do they operate in, how many employees do they have, what's their revenue, what's their budget size, anything else you need to know about the firm itself. That's why it's called firmographics data, because that will enable you to think, well, if they're a small business and they're not generating the revenue, would your service be of help to them, right? So you can just drop them off the list. And then you can understand that technographic data, which is you can speak to existing big customers you have, see what are they using, what technologies they use, what's the level of the technology maturity within the company, and what are the actual pain points that your product or service can solve. So putting together all the firmographic and technological graphic data, you can then define your ideal customer profile. And now, So now that your sales team and your marketing team and your customer service team work together to put together this ICP, they all know who they're going after.
Yeah, and that's the key point. And I think it is the evolution from the persona.
Right. Target audience persona that typically marketing designs that, right? And sales has an input usually in it. This is ideal customer persona. Like the person doesn't buy. One thing about B2B marketing, and heard this a lot in various conferences I attended and whatnot, that it's not B2B as in B2 boring because you're selling business to business, but at the end of the day, you're selling to a person. So you need to understand what are the key motivators behind those decisions those people make for their businesses, right? Yeah, so you put all this together, have a clear customer profile, right? And have a definition for the profile. For example, I'll give you a definition that we try to put in our own organization. our ideal customer profile is a SaaS company, software as a service company from the US, let's say, with at least one branch outside their HQ, which means they are growing externally, has over 500 employees globally, right? Has annual revenues of at least 150, 200 million, have marketing budgets of $30,000, $50,000 a month, uses technology like Salesforce or HubSpot, and have key decision makers are CEO, CMO, Chief Growth Officer, CFO, CTO. And then their customer base are made up of small businesses where their technology helps them to analyze key business metrics that helps them make informed decisions. So that's a really clear definition of who is my customer, right? And then the sales and marketing team can put together the strategy, ABM strategy, to go after that client.
Yeah, that's very cool, having that alignment there. I guess, what are some of maybe the risks or maybe other challenges you've seen people in implementing ABM?
Well, the challenges for implementing ABM in general, I think, is the non-alignment of the sales and marketing teams. But in Japan, for example, there are different challenges, different risks, where, like we talked earlier, it's hard to know to build your contact base because, contact coverage of target accounts is quite low in Japan. LinkedIn doesn't work in Japan, right? There's only 3 million users, right? And then there's a lot of irrelevant content because you need to provide relevant content to your ideal customer profile, and language limitations because translation seems to be, okay, let's just get it translated and publish it. Whereas the approach we take for our clients is transcreation and humanizing stories, because what is the value? It's not just about translating the content, it's about what are the nuances to the Japanese market and how is this particular case study or testimonial going to be relevant to the Japanese company that's going to buy your technology or service, right? So those could be some of the key challenges. And intent data, it's hard to get a lot of intent data. There are many data sources in other markets, data service providers. But in Japan, there aren't that many. So you got to build your own first-party data.
Gotcha.
And then that takes a lot of time and effort. And once you've built that first-party data, then you can do lookalike data and then try to create campaigns using lookalike data.
I think companies like Money Forward now are trying to jump in that space to provide that data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. There are quite a few Japanese companies, and Sun or 8. And the reason that data is pretty good is because they're scanning business cards, right? But again, business cards are not perfect in Japan. But so you can work with some of those platforms. And there are also some data banks like Teikoku Data Bank or Tokyo Shoko Research, Nomura Research Institute. They all have information on companies and data on companies that you can buy or you can get access to, of course, maintaining the privacy laws and all of that, just making sure that you're following all the required Japanese privacy laws. As much as you can get the intent data, that will help you with defining your campaigns better.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Scaling Japan. In addition to serving as your fine host, I also provide advisory and coaching services to business owners who want to 2x, 5x, and even 10x their business. So stop holding your company and your team and your employees back, and let me help you and your company scale. Find more information at scalingyourcompany.com. Now back to the episode. Yeah, so let's turn our attention to Japan and ABM.
Sure.
So I think that was some of the challenges, I think, especially in Japan. The first one, yes, I think that's kind of related, but does ABM work in Japan?
Oh, yes, it does. And it does. It's slowly picking up in Japan. But if you think about it, typical business decisions in Japan are consensus driven, right? They are committee driven, right? And ABM is all about consensus marketing, right? Building that consensus team, right? So yes, in that sense, ABM is perfect for Japan. However, it's still like nascent marketing methodology used by big companies. And if you think about it, unlike the Western markets where decisions are individualistic or decentralized. Japan values multiple stakeholders, often including senior executives. So it's really good that you can work to build a good relationship with the entire team. And then Japan also, it's all about building trust and relationships with your key clients, right? So patience is the key in Japan. Take your time to reach those key accounts and build consensus with them. And as you very well know, in Japan, loyalty runs deep. Loyalty with established partners, established vendors are very high. It's really hard to get them to switch from their current service provider to you if they already have a service provider. Now, if your technology or product or service is new and a different, innovative way to do it, that also has its challenges, because why do I stop doing whatever I'm doing in this method and change it to a new method that I don't know is going to give me results, right? It's even more risky. Keeping in mind that loyalty runs deep, it takes time to get buy-in for switching to new products or services. You got to take a long game, be very patient, build those relationships, provide facts, provide data. That's the other thing. Japanese decision makers are very information hungry. They like to do all their own research, right, to do their own homework. So the more information you can provide them, the more well-informed they are, then you can start to build champions within those businesses to recommend your company, your product or service. Those would be the key things to do successful ABM in Japan. But yeah, ABM does work in Japan.
Are there any additional methods used for ABM in Japan or any differences?
Sure. In Japan, there's a lot of partner relationship management involved. So for example, in Japan, a lot of sales is done through distributors who hold large accounts, right? So you need to keep that in mind. So if you are working through a distribution channel or there are distributors involved in certain purchase of technology or services, then you need to understand who those distributors are, because they become also part of your buying committee. They could either be an ally or a foe. So you need to understand that relationship. And some of the differences for doing ABM in Japan is try to avoid provocative approaches in Japan. That's not a kind of a practice that exists in Japan. Instead, try to be more collaborative and respectful of how things are done in Japan. I think kind of a provocative marketing approaches can backfire, can work, but can backfire a lot in Japan as well. And then in Japan, again, be aware of the organizational bureaucracy, because there are many hierarchies and structures in Japan. So that can affect how effective your ABM strategy can succeed. So understanding Japan's business culture is very crucial. Understanding how those hierarchies work and who are those key within those buying committees as well. Even within those buying committees, you will have seniority and whatnot. And then in order to succeed, it's definitely the same elsewhere, but I think more so in Japan, trust is the core. Really building that trust with your Japanese counterpart and trying to identify an ABM advocate, so to speak, in your ICP's account. And that would help you to then empower them and get them on your side, get their buy-in, so then they can internally help with your sales process.
How would you define ABM advocate?
Yeah, so an ABM advocate would be, for me, like a champion, that's going to help you to promote your offering to, within the organization, so that you're trying to target. So in your buying committee, there might be all the senior decision makers, but there might be an influencer who's not a key decision maker, but that person can be an advocate that will give you information on, and help you with understanding how their organization runs, what are the key information that he or she needs to then share internally within their organization, any information you can get about how the company makes decisions, or the pain points the company has, or key kind of personalities within that committee. Okay, watch out for so and so son, and this particular person, you got to provide more of this, and that person, you got to handle these kind of challenging questions. He's tough, but he means well, so don't be worried about him, or those kind of information. An advocate would really help you to build that relationship. and give you that insights. Yeah.
It kind of goes back to maybe a sales question, but maybe like your experience, like how many meetings does it take to get really this kind of good information?
I'd say 7 to 10 meetings. And to build that level of like integrated trust. Right?
Mm.
Yeah. So initial meetings are just kind of getting to know you stage, and there are different stages in Japan, right? The Nemawashi stage and so on, moving through those different stages, understanding the Japanese business culture. Also, understanding when to approach with what, stage and information is key. When can you
Yeah.
invite somebody out for lunch and then
Yeah.
discuss over lunch versus just needs to be business meetings only, because it's case by case. It's really
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
personality, but in general, I'd say it would be like close to 7 meetings.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely case by case, and let's say there's no one defined formula for that. You just have to read the situation.
Indeed, yeah.
Cool. No, that was very interesting because I think that's probably the first question. Like, how do you get all this information? It's like, so that's why it has to be a collaboration between sales and marketing.
That is the crucial component for ABM success.
And what are some international software that works well in Japan for ABM?
Sure. Like, so for large enterprises, Salesforce for CRM, customer relationship or client relationship management, data management, Marketo or Pardot for marketing automation, and then Demandbase, Terminus, and Sixth Sense. These are, tools that they are complete ABM platforms that help you to get intent data. You want to find out clients, potential ICP. If you know they're coming into market based on their search, then they provide intent that they're looking for so and so particular service, right? So that kind of intent data you can get from tools like Demandbase, Terminus, Sixth Sense, and Sales Intelligence. And then Foundry, they have really good targeted leads, and that works well in Japan. HubSpot, if you're a SME, HubSpot most recently acquired a company called Clearbit, and Clearbit is a data provider. Yeah.
Yes.
So they've got rich data on potential, ICPs, and you can use their data to understand and get better customer insights, and with the help of HubSpot, that you can target those companies even better. They just acquired them. It'll be interesting to see how they integrate their solution. We are a HubSpot certified provider. So we work with HubSpot closely. So those are some of the international software that works well in Japan. There's a lot of software. It's about finding out for us about our clients, like what platforms our clients are on, and being able to service them on their platforms, because they will have global intelligent platforms that we need to service them on.
Gotcha. I was going to dive into domestic software next, but I was thinking maybe if you could give a little bit more information on like what's say intent based.
Sure. So one of the key stats that has been circling a lot recently is that 95% of your buyers are not in market. Only 5% of your buyers in the B2B space are in market. So imagine those 5%, every one of your competitors are trying to reach the same 5%.
Yeah, the AdWords. I've seen some ridiculous AdWord prices, Google AdWord prices.
So, so all the marketing dollars tend to go towards a 5% typically, right? So we're seeing a traditional shift to actually thinking about the 95% that's not in market. So how can you find out if that 95% would probably be in market for your product or service in 3 months time, 6 months time, 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line? That is, you really need to spend time, if you know your clients that you want to, industries you're targeting or clients you're targeting, analyzing those companies, looking at their strategic, decisions they're making, right? And understanding how they are making those decisions. And then with the tools like Demand Base and Sixth Sense, you're finding not just keywords they're searching, but you're looking at what kind of reports they're downloading, what kind of articles they're reading. All that kind of can signal intent. And then you're building together your list based on this intent data, so that even before they are in market, you can start to market to them. You can start to reach out to them, and show that you understand their business and understand what they're looking for in terms of a service provider or technology. So that's how you can use intent data sophisticatedly to help your sales and marketing goals.
I think for those of us who maybe haven't used those tools for the markets or the intent-based data, but how do they get these types of data sources, based on what actions by the corporates?
Yeah, so the tools, of course, you got to have an account, on Demand Base or Sixth Sense, and once you log into them, you can then look at on the tool. You can look at particular company, particular behavior, particular search terms, particular volume of search terms, and most recently, as you know, AI is a big search term volume, ChatGPT, right? So how are those companies using technology or AI? If you're an AI service provider, you're looking at, okay, companies are using AI to build new tools to achieve what? So what's the outcome? What's the result they're trying to achieve, right? And if you know the result they're trying to achieve based on content they're consuming, then you can see, does your particular product or tool, for example, address that need, right? That's how you would look at these big corporates or your potential ICs, their usage of content and their consumption of information that will then enable you to fine-tune your product offering or service offering to them.
Gotcha. Well, that's pretty amazing that, let's say, it can go into that type of detail nowadays.
Yeah, that's what I said. So, ABM, has been more successful and thanks to technology, availability of data sources that can help you to really define, your potential customer and define what their challenges, needs are, so that then you if this is a suitable customer or not. Because often what also happens is, companies try to create products and services to address needs because they want to acquire a particular customer. You want to be able to make sure that there's a fit between your product and service and the company's needs. If you can have that product market fit or service market fit, then they will be your ideal customer. If not, you'll have a customer that you're probably ending up servicing a lot, or ending up having not so comfortable conversations with, and your customer service team then wondering, why are they our customer?
And my next question is, what are some domestic software that works well for ABM?
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, 8, Sansan.
Oh, yeah, from Sansan.
Yes. Forecasts, they are a data management and research platform. Takeover Data Bank, Tokyo Shoko Research, Nomura Research. They all have databases that can help assist with your ABM strategy. And a lot of marketing in Japan, especially with B2B publishers, because at the end of the day, it's all about acquiring first-party data as much as possible, because then you can know for more certainty that they could be a potential customer. So a lot of content syndication happens when there's a lack of domestic software, that can assist your ABM. One of the marketing strategies is content syndication, meaning we advise our clients to run targeted content syndication with B2B publishers in that particular industry. If it's like IT media, we do a joint research with them and then publish that research. And then that research is then published or sent to their database. They've got the database. They won't give you the database, but they can send your research or your article to that particular database through a newsletter or the website or whatever communication channels they have. And then their database, the users that are interested, would enter into a sequence where they, visit your website and give their contact information to download that data, for example, download that report or something. So these kind of content syndication marketing strategies work because then you start to collect first-party data of potential customers. Mostly international softwares are quite powerful.
Excellent. So, based on your experience helping Japanese companies with ABM, like large corporates, what areas of understanding ABM have you found it maybe harder for them to adapt or learn or maybe employ?
We haven't done ABM for Japanese companies, so it's hard to answer that. But I can tell you in terms of, what areas that they would probably struggle with. I think is number one is alignment, sales and marketing alignment, and two is understanding content. Creating content, you need a lot of resources to create content. Creating, relevant content to their target audiences. And typical marketing in Japan is kind of sales driven, right? You go to trade shows, you try to business cards, and again it's the large volume type activity, marketing activity. So changing the mindset in a way, what, you don't need to hit the pavements. Here's how you're going to do it, right? Spend finding out what the key people in particular company or these 5 companies, right? And try to build those relationships with those people rather than, so changing a mentality from sales focus, marketing focus and ABM focus is the biggest obstacle from a sales perspective. And then from the marketing perspective, I'm creating a lot of content creating focused content to specific, industry or client needs is the challenge.
I can definitely see that happening. It's like you don't need to hit the pavement as much, but we have to gambaru. If we're not hitting the pavement, we're not gambaruing.
Exactly, right. So it's yeah.
Cool. And I guess Custom Media has a really good reputation in Japan. And so I'm also, if you could answer, what is an example of a company you helped and how did you help them with ABM for Japan specifically?
Sure. We work with typically international companies that are entering the Japanese market. So how we help them or work with them is helping them to understand, their ICP, starting with, who is their ideal customer profile, the industries that they target. And in the particular industry, it could be very specific, right? Like, are they, for example, in technology, are they research and development kind of decision makers who are trying to build new technologies with the help of your product or solution? Or are they, looking for solutions that are going to help them, scale their business, right? So what we in our, approach is first helping our clients identify the ideal profile. And we have a proven process in our business of how we help our clients. It all starts with discovery. Discovery is the first stage where we really spend time to understand, the client's business, the client's clients, and who they're trying to reach, everything we need to know about their business. Then we move into a strategy cycle where we're building together with them the right strategy. And if ABM is the strategy, we work together with them to build out the ABM strategy. And from then it goes to the ideation of creation. That's where the creativity happens, the ideas are generated and so on. So that's the ideation stage. And then we go to the activation. Activation is executing everything that we've been discussing and planning and strategizing for. After execution, it's important to optimize and analyze. So is it working? Why is it working? Why is it not working? What can we improve on? Analyze, and then kind of reiterating that cycle. So that's the 5 stages we have in our business. It's called our proven process for our clients. And ABM is part of that process. And with ABM, again, like I said, finding then data, finding contacts, building the contact list, and then doing the various other marketing and brand activities to try and generate that intent data, right? So your traditional lead gen, demand gen tactics help you to build intent data. because you're creating case studies, creating testimonials, publishing that, seeing what kind of traffic because if you're new to the market, you don't know, what you don't know. So you need to start to build that first.
I really like how you focus that, really, really focusing on that discovery stage as well. Because I find sometimes that when I do it, or they assume sometimes that, maybe the Toyota in the US is similar to Toyota Japan, and they just kind of want to just jump in right on in. But actually, no, you have to take a step back.
Exactly, right. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much for sharing about ABM. So I guess where can we find you, and also do you have any asks or requests for the audience?
Sure. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's the best place. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so I'll share with you my LinkedIn. And we're connected on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. And on our website, we've got a lot of content. We also have a piece on ABM-based marketing with a self-assessment check sheet. Like I said, ABM is not for everyone, but I think it's important to first do your self-assessment as to see whether ABM is for you. This check sheet has a list of questions, and typically you answer yes or no. And then it's got a scoring methodology. So based on the scoring, you will have an idea as to would it be a great fit for your business? Can you implement it? Or do you need help implementing it? Or if it's not a good fit at all. So I think it's important. That's a first step, for anybody thinking of ABM if you've not done it in Japan. The other thing we find that means do ABM successfully in other markets, and they think, okay, we can just replicate it in Japan. No. Doesn't always work, and just for any in Japan, right? Because what works in the West doesn't necessarily work here. So it's important to understand what are the nuances in the market, and if they were to work, what are those challenges that you're going to face, obstacles you're going to face. So this check sheet can help you with doing that self-assessment, and then I wish you the very best in your ABM strategy in Japan.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you so much for your time. And it's very interesting.
You're welcome. Very nice speaking to you, Tyson. And thanks again for the opportunity.